Welcome to Right on Track, a songwriting podcast. Thanks to Tone for tuning in. I'm Demi Michelle Schwartz, and I'm thrilled you're joining me on my songwriting journey. So kick back and relax, don't fall flat, and remember, stay right on track. Hey everyone, welcome back to Right on Track. Joining me on the show today is Garrett Bradford. Hi, Garrett.
Hello there. How are you doing? Thank you for having me on.
I'm fantastic. I'm so excited to have you on the show. How are you doing?
Well, I'm doing great. I'm excited to be on here. I was yesterday I was looking at your show and really cool topics. I've been doing a lot of podcasts, but I love what you're doing with this and really diving and digging into things from a creative perspective is really neat. So just thanks for having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you so much for your kind words on the show as well. It's been a delight hosting this, and I'm so excited to have you on the show to chat about many things. But first, can you please share with everyone a little about yourself and your journey in music so far?
Sure thing. Well, my name is Garrett Bradford, as you were saying. I'm from a town called Weatherford, Texas, just about 30 miles west of Fort Worth. I was raised on a ranch out here. My parents both very involved in ranching and horses and cattle, and did that for a living. So I kind of grew up in that world. I was really lucky to get exposed. I don't really have any musicians in my family. I was really lucky to get exposed through some friends and outside influences, and even through children's choir when I was a little boy in church, to get exposed to music and songwriting at a really young age. And I have just been bit with the bug, as they say, and I've loved it ever since. And I've been doing it for a while now. And, I didn't always take it as seriously as I have the last few years. I mean, I've always been serious about it as my passion. I always have been writing a bunch, but as far as really trying to, put albums out and get out there as a writer and as an artist, really about the last 5 years, and it's been a really great journey so far.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I too have like no other musicians in my family. So everyone's like, where did she get the music talent? 'Cause I actually started with classical piano and I still play that. I started playing when I was 10 years old. And whenever I started to do the classical piano, my whole family was like, wow, like no musicians in our family. So that was really fun. And I love how you had that passion for music since a young age and now you're making it more of a career.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I feel the same way. I mean, I have an uncle, not had, I have an uncle, my uncle Jim, who is kind of how I got exposed at first to playing guitar. And he doesn't play a lot. He only plays a few songs, but he had a guitar and he had a couple of those, song books like people used to use before the internet when you just have the chord sheets and the lyrics. And I thought that was really cool. He could play a couple of songs, and I started playing myself. And before long, as he would say, I was teaching him things. So
Yeah,
it's been an
no.
interesting path.
Absolutely. So it's very clear that you are drawn to country music with your whole background going up. But aside from just being rooted in the country music lifestyle, what are some other things you love about this genre that makes you feel gravitated toward it as a songwriter?
Well, that's a really good question. I think primarily for me, I love the storytelling aspect of country, and that's not exclusive to country. I mean, you can find storytelling songs in a lot of genres, but in particular, country and the more traditional variety, which is really what I was influenced by and what I grew up on. I love telling stories, and I love the kind of everyman appeal of country music. I think when it's done right, it's simple, but simple doesn't always mean easy to write, for sure. Sometimes it's tough to write a simple song that people are really going to like, that's unique. You know, because there's so much that's already been said, and trying to come at things from a different angle, but just making it really relatable to just your average everyday people, whether they're, blue collar construction workers, farmers, or ranchers, or really anybody. I think can find a country song that they relate to, and that's really what I like about it the most.
Yeah, I resonate so much with everything you said. I'm a multi-genre artist and I do pop and country, but with the country music specifically, it's all about the storytelling for me. And I absolutely love what you said about making it simple sometimes, and I know some people can think, "Oh, simple, that's easy," but it's absolutely not. Sometimes the simplest songs have the most emotion behind them, and they were the hardest to write, and I think sometimes, like, as a pop artist too, I love the production, and I know, like, when I'm doing my pop music, I love to go into the studio and do all the fun instrumentation and stuff, and at times I think, those songs I love to perform live because it's just me and my acoustic guitar, and nothing's really being masked by this wild production. And I feel like with country music, when you can have a lot of production, but I love the songs that are more stripped back. You got the acoustic guitar, maybe some drums, but nothing crazy going on. And I have a new song coming out on my EP later this year called "If Your Heart Eclipses Mine," and it's like a country pop crossover piano ballad. It's literally just piano and my voice, and I sent it to some friends, and they were like, "This is my favorite song of yours," and it's so simple, like, it's just piano and vocals, that's it, and it's all about the storytelling and the lyrics, so I completely agree with you that sometimes the simple songs are the special ones.
I think you're right, especially if somebody had never written a song, or they weren't a songwriter. I think it would be easy to think that they hear a song that seems simple, and oh yeah, that was probably really easy to write. And I mean, sometimes they are, but for me, like the best songs that I write, I feel like are and the ones that people resonate with the most are simple, but there's also depth there. I've never been a big fan of, and it's just my personal taste, but like songs that use a lot of tons of vocabulary and try to be so over the top witty, and you have to really think super hard, but you're not really sure if you understand what they mean, and like hidden messages. And I know some people are like super into that kind of music. I just never appealed much to me. I mean, I think that I always say straight up the middle, like saying it in a conversational writing. I think I really love that. Like a lot of my songs, not too many on this first album that I just released, but other songs that I've written, I love to drop people into the middle of a conversation right when the song starts and kind of fill in the pieces as you go of the dialogue between two people. I love conversational lyrics and things that sound like what you would actually say if you were talking to somebody. It's my favorite part of country music.
Yeah. No, the conversational lyrics are super important because when you look at country music and the storytelling, it's rooted in human emotion, human experience, and that's where the relatability comes in. And when you have these conversational lyrics, it's almost like you are sitting right there listening to the artist tell you the story or tell you about a struggle they're going through or something they had to overcome or love or something like that. And I think the conversational lyrics, sometimes you're exactly right. We can get so caught up in, okay, let me Google like synonyms for this word and try to pick the most fancy thing. And sometimes like the most simplest word is the one that really resonates.
Yeah, I constantly battle with that as a writer sometimes, and I think it's detrimental. At least for me as a country writer, there's certain words I'll not want to use if because I'm like, oh, that's too common. I mean, even sometimes heart is one of those. I mean, I do use heart. I've definitely used it in songs, but sometimes I'll get in my head when I'm writing a song or I'm co-writing a song with somebody, and oh gosh, I don't know if I want to use heart. That's just used in so many songs, but there's a reason
Yeah.
it's used in so many songs. It's because people love it. I mean, they
Yeah.
relate to it. It's something that you say a lot in your day to day life.
Mhm.
That broke my heart, or my heart's aching. So I think that's what makes it. But I know what you're saying because sometimes I want to go grab that thesaurus
Yeah.
and overcomplicate things, and I have to remind myself all the time not to
Yeah.
do that. I still do it, and when I do that, it rarely works that well. The songs that people like the most are the ones where I didn't really try to flex my vocabulary or my writing skills.
No, for sure. So because you're so drawn to the storytelling, the conversational lyrics, when you sit down to write a song, are you lyric driven? Do you typically start with the lyrics or do you start with the music and melody first?
When I first started writing, and probably for a while after I first started writing, I seemed to be more like lyrics first. I would have a concept or a hook line or something, and then I would go build that out. Usually, it's very rare that I've written a whole song without having a melody in mind, or the music part in mind. But I sometimes they start that way. But now I notice it's kind of both at the same time. Maybe I'll hear something or think of something that oh, that would make a good song, and I'm instantly starting to try to hear it in my head. So it's a little bit of a mixture. One of the things I've been wanting to do more of, and I have been doing, is trying to write without thinking of any music, melody in my head, just to write lyrics and then put them to melody. I know some of the greatest songwriting pairs, like Bernie Taupin and Elton John, were like that. I was reading about that. I actually got to meet Bernie Taupin when I was a kid, totally unrelated. He was at a horse event, and my dad knew him from doing some horse deals with him. But yeah, Bernie and Elton wrote almost all of Elton's songs, I believe, or a significant majority of them. And Bernie would give Elton John lyrics, and Elton John would put them to music. And I think those, I mean, some of Elton John's songs are just some of the most amazing songs ever written, in my opinion. So I want to try to do that a little bit myself too, even with myself. Okay, I'm gonna just focus on the lyrics, and then take those lyrics and then start thinking about melody.
Yeah. No, that's great. And I think it's really interesting when you look at the songwriting process because even if you typically write one way, you may feel inspired one day to completely do your process differently. And the cool thing is, as songwriters, we all get to the same end result differently, and we still end up with a finished song. And so there's no right or wrong way to write a song. So I think it's really cool how you kind of have your process where you're open to trying new things because I think pushing yourself to write a song in different ways will just help you to grow as a songwriter in general. So now I want to hear about your double album, Honkiest of Tonkers, which is such a good title.
Thank you.
So, what inspired this?
Well, I've been putting out singles for quite a while, and of course, I grew up listening to albums and on CD, a lot of them, and all my heroes, people I look up to. I think about iconic albums, and I was just thinking, well, I know they say the prevailing wisdom nowadays is that singles can be better because you get to promote the song, and there's reasons with the algorithm and the streaming services why releasing singles does make a lot of sense. But I just wanted to actually have an album, and I had a few of those songs already recorded. I was planning to release them as singles, and I thought, you know what? Why don't I why don't I actually put out an album? And I was at first going to make like a 20-song album, but I was talking with Christy, who's one of my best friends, and she's a great publicist in Nashville, and she's always got really good advice. And she said, "Have you ever thought about doing it like a double album, like part one and part two, and spacing them out a little bit? So release part one, and then a month or two later, part two, because that would give you more time to promote them." And I'm still, I'm far from being a household name. I don't have hundreds of thousands of people just waiting for me to drop music. So I thought it would make a little sense to give myself that time to promote those songs. And Honkiest Of Tonkers is, it's funny, that was a song or that's a song that I wrote, and I wanted my album. I think one of the hardest things to do nowadays, this is kind of my modus operandi for the next year or two, is everything I do, I want it to be as unique as possible and as different as possible from everything else I hear, but also it being authentic. And I think one of the hardest things to do is to stand out in a world where there's, however many 50,000 songs a day uploaded to Spotify. So with a lot of these songs that I put on the album, I don't know if I necessarily would have say that all of them are my absolute favorite songs of my own as a songwriter, but I tried to find ones that I thought were at least, a little unique and would stand out. And I wanted to do that with the album title too, like Honkiest Of Tonkers. I don't know if I saw that. If I was looking at new releases and I saw that as an album, I'd be like, "What the hell is this? What the heck is this?" Excuse me. So yeah, that's kind of what I was going for with that.
That's so good. So I'm super curious. So with the whole double album, how in the world did you choose which song to put on each one?
I kind of wanted them to be there. The songs are about half of the songs are recorded in Texas, where I'm from, and the other half are recorded up in Nashville. And I go back and forth. I spend a month here and a month there. So I'm in fact I'm going into the studio on Friday to record some songs here in Texas. That's where I'm at now. I just wanted it to be a kind of a blend of both of the places, and the sounds that I kind of get in the studio in both places. And I just wanted, when I really picked which ones were going to be on which album, I didn't want one to be like all ballads and one to be up tempo. I tried to kind of mix it in. So I was thinking, like, for a listener's experience, what is what songs would go well on the first part and which ones on the two. So I really thought a lot about that and really overthought it way too much. I was way overthinking it, and then I was like, you know what? I just need to put the songs to make them both a pretty good blend of up tempo ballads, heartfelt songs, fun songs, and that's really what I was going for.
Yeah, I'm the queen of overthinking, and I can barely put a track list together for like one album. I don't think if I did a double album, the thing would never be released because I sit there and like change it up and like move stuff around for a ridiculous amount of time. So, fun question. So, from both parts one and two, right now, what is your favorite song from part one and your favorite song from part two and why?
So my favorite song off of part one is probably a song called "Do You," and then there's parentheses and it says "I do," because it's kind of one of those songs that could have that could have two titles. I think that, and it's been doing pretty well actually. I think it might have the most streams of any song that I put out on the album, and it's very heartfelt. Like, I wrote it after I got out of a breakup, and was really sad about that. And I was thinking I ended this relationship, and I was really thinking and wondering if I had made a mistake. And that's really where the inspiration of the song came from. And then I love, it's very traditional country sounding. The guitar part, a guy named Dave Smith, who's phenomenal in Nashville. He played those guitar parts, the lead guitar parts, and people have just responded well to it. And I think at the end of the day, as a songwriter, this has changed over time. But at the point I'm at now, I just want to make music, at least release music that people enjoy to listen to and resonate with. And that seems to be the song that's probably done that most. The other one, off part one, would be "Watching You Burn." Now, I've gotten really good feedback on that, but it's a little more sad, and "Do You" is a little more optimistic. Um, and I kind of like the optimism. And on part two, there's a song called "She Loves Horses," and I think that's my favorite. The kind of the real title should be "She Hates Me." She loves horses and she hates me, but that's kind of like a zinger that I deliver at the end of the chorus, and you're not really expecting me to say that, because it sounds like you're talking about this girl that you're in love with and you're in a relationship with, and you think everything's going good, but then at the end of the first chorus, it's like, and she loves horses, but she hates me. So I didn't want to name it "She Hates Me" because I thought that would ruin the surprise on the first listen. I don't know if that makes any
Yeah.
sense, but I
Yeah.
was like, well, they're gonna know she hates me already if I make that the title.
I love it. I love, and I want to do this more. I don't think I've ever done it really. My song titles typically come from the chorus, but I love when artists will name a song like something that isn't even mentioned in
Yes.
yeah, like I can't think of any off the top of my head, but like I guess Taylor Swift's Willow, like she mentions Willow in the song, but like Willow's not part of the chorus. Like I think she says it like a couple of times. I think it's really cool when people
Yeah.
take different approaches to like naming the songs.
I think so too. As you were saying that, I was trying to rack my brain, like, which songs do that? I know there are a lot. Like I've noticed that a lot over the years, or at least a decent amount, where a song will the. I know there's a really old country song. Here's one that's like that by a guy named Johnny Horton. I don't know if he wrote it, but he made it a hit. It's called "The Battle of New Orleans," and it's about basically the War of 1812 and the Americans fighting the British. And it's kind of a fun, lighthearted, tongue-in-cheek song, but it's called the Battle of New Orleans, but it never says any. It never says those words in the song, and there's quite a few that are like that. That I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, that's pretty cool when you can
Uh-huh.
pull it off, you know.
Yeah. No, for sure. Well, congratulations on the double album. The first one's out. The second one comes out on April 11th, right?
Yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
awesome.
Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am.
Well, I'm super excited for you. And before we go, what advice do you have for any songwriters listening?
I guess for me, if you're trying to write country music, a thing that's really served me well, probably two things. A, like I was saying earlier, lead with uniqueness. If you're try to stand out, and part two is to be authentic. So it's always a fine line. I don't want to do something that's really strange and out of character for me, but I also want to show off the more uh goofy or fun or quirky sides of my personality and my songwriting, and like Honkiest Of Tonkers. That's kind of part of that is like leaning into what makes you different. And as a writer, I think that's so important.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Fantastic advice. It was a joy having you on the show. Can you please share with everybody where they can connect with you online and check out your music?
Absolutely. So, music, Garrett, just look up Garrett Bradford on any of the music platforms or YouTube if you don't have one of the streaming platforms. All my songs are on there. I use Instagram a lot and TikTok quite a bit. Um, Definitely hit me up on Instagram. I like Instagram because I check it more, and I love when people reach out and hey, I heard you on the podcast, or I don't know. I love talking, especially other songwriters or just fans of music. I love messaging back and forth with them and getting to know people and figure out where they're listening from. It's part of the joy of this profession. So just Garrett Bradford Music is on Instagram. That's my name. And Garrett Bradford TX is in Texas. Garrett Bradford TX on TikTok.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for joining me.
Well, thank you so much. It was really a pleasure, and we'll have to do it again next year or something
Yeah,
whenever
no,
I'm putting out another
absolutely.
album.
You are more than welcome back anytime. Listeners, I hope you enjoyed this chat with Garrett Bradford. And of course, until next time, stay
Stay
right
right
on
on
track.
track.